Okay, let's go. Good morning. I hope you can hear me and see me. Okay, my microphone seems to be working, that's fine. Hello today, hello on Friday. I see there's quite a lot of questions already, on the chat. I'm gonna go through them in a second. A few good ones. I can see them, yeah. I do have some info about Home 3 today. A little bit maybe boring because it's quite engineering, but you will be able to see at least how we plan to do, how everything will go together in terms of core box and all the add-ons. I've got those renders for you as well. I have also, I do have answer about the large box, the big box. I'm gonna go through that also in a second. Okay, so today it's gonna be kind of a little bit boring to start with because I've got some data to show you. I want to go through that one because we just finished campaign, and I think it's very, very interesting to show you. I promise I will do that. And especially now when the Kickstarter is providing quite a lot of data when you're doing your project. And unfortunately, once you finish your project, there's a this data is not available anymore, so you won't be able to access it. So for those of you who plan to run their own projects in the future, just make sure you just screenshot that data before the project is finished, because then you won't be able to access it. I sent the ticket to a Kickstarter asking question why they have done this one, because it's quite good, interesting for us for the future campaigns to understand how to move and what to do and so on. But yeah, that is correct. Data is never boring. The question is whether we're reading data correctly, because that's important. Data is data. We have to also, know how to read it. Okay, let me check quickly questions before I move to the slides. Yes, as I mentioned, I will try to show you some bits and bobs. No, we don't plan to do any school packs at the moment. If we're going to plan them, it's going to be next campaign, that's for sure. Next campaign, because next campaign's got one theme which is quite, let's call it horror theme, so it will fit perfectly. Good morning from Poland. No, I don't have any concepts for DNL6 at the moment with me. I just want to leave it for the next live. However, I do have concept for Titanomachy and a few more slides to show you for other projects. Okay, so the big box. We are planning to do the big box just for the highest pledge. We went through the manufacturer just to have some understanding about a big box, how to do it for smaller pledges, and unfortunately there is no possibility to do so because the complexity of the projects will skyrocket, and then obviously even if we charge you for X amount of dollars, it's still gonna be complex to calculate correctly. Because of the packaging will be different. You have so many variations and so many components you can do. So it's kind of for all in pledge, we will allow the big box. So it will be replacing the normal boxes, and we have a big box will hold everything, including Inferno, right? So everything plus Inferno. The card sleeves, I do have answer for that one as well for you in a sec. So the pledge manager will be starting just after long weekend. There is a long weekend in Poland, which means the Monday and Wednesday is a bank holiday. In most of the cases, Tuesday, this is the day where everybody also takes one day off just to extend the holidays, or sometimes they even take 3 days next week off just to extend it for entire week of holidays. So one of the reasons why we wanted to reschedule is that because we need to have somebody from customer service and in general team to be here just in case if there is something not okay with pledge manager, right? Right. Team, I plan to do something for 2024 next year. There's a reason for that, because at the moment team is extremely busy with finishing Dungeon Lasers 4. Then there is Dungeon Lasers 5, which we already announced that is going to be happening towards the end of the year. And although we have like 6 sculptors now, there is still not enough sculptors to actually do all the projects we want. Especially that we have extremely large, very very, very, very important project which is coming our way, and the announcement will be soon. It's an IP project, which will take at least two or three the best sculptors, so away from, well, the best, I mean, they're all good, but I mean the fastest ones, in order to actually focus on this new project. So yeah, anything which is like for Dungeon Lasers, which we plan for this year, except the Dungeon Lasers X6, is gonna be more for the next year. But I think it's a final, because, you know, how I see, maybe I'm wrong, but how I see that, it's, if we're going to run something in like a circle, then we can do every year one Dungeon Lasers fantasy one, and every odd year focus a little bit on fantasy, on science fiction, and make one science fiction, and so on, so on. Especially now that, you know, you can play Kill Team, for instance, right, in Interior, and it's quite good. So potentially there would be quite a lot of people interested in this one. Okay, let me check some stuff. That is that's a good question. Do I prefer Kickstarter or GameFound? I know guys from the GameFound. I know them very well personally, owners. Do I like Kickstarter in terms of layout, page layout, and everything which GameFound is doing? I prefer GameFound. I do prefer GameFound. The only one small tiny problem with GameFound is that we are unable to use any other external marketing services, because they're not kind of working together. They work with Kickstarter, and that's only one tiny small downside. And it's all depending on the projects. If you have like the board game projects, Kickstarter is okay. Equally to GameFound, let's say. But if you have a specific projects which require a little bit more marketing, require a little bit more traffic to your page, Kickstarter will be better till the GameFound will find some solution. I know the GameFound is currently actually quite actively working on providing this kind of services as well. So marketing services, when you run your projects, they will, you know, help you with that. So maybe this will be kind of game changer in terms of that platform. Now, GameFound's got the advantage of doing something which Kickstarter really lack enough, and especially everything which is about the page, updating the page, doing all the, you know, everything, absolutely everything, even updates. I mean, even the things like when you sign up for the project, right? The Kickstarter only lets you know when the project starts and 48 hours before the project is finished. Now, in a GameFound, you have this option that every single update goes into the inbox of, you know, the person who signed up for the projects, right? So that person is able to actually make a call halfway through the projects, towards the end of the projects, or even 48 hours before end of the projects, okay? So that is quite good. That is quite good in terms of a GameFound. They know already, I think the GameFound knows much better how to sell than Kickstarter. Maybe Kickstarter doesn't require it, but because the sheer size of the platform is, they don't really put much focus on it. However, in the last couple of months, I've seen Kickstarter being extremely active, and we've been getting a lot of emails, especially about the, you know, Pledge Manager, for instance, about the marketing. So they've been really actively, so even contacting us about, oh look, your campaign is starting here or there, we would like to do some marketing for you, and so on, so on. So it's something is a little bit changing in Kickstarter as well, which is actually good to see, because we need a good competition, and that's what it is. Good competition creates even better products. Okay. Okay. Yes, if you're going to late pledge, you're gonna get all those things. Yes, so all the stretch goals, obviously, unless the ones which were just I'm not quite sure whether on that campaign we had just like 48 hours stretch goals. I don't think we had 48 hours ones. Hi, will you use GameFound for late pledge purposes with those? Yes, this time around we're also going to be using GameFound. As you might know, GameFound decided to make Pledge Manager charge for the Pledge Manager, right? So it's something which I personally, I'm not big fan of it, because the I've got my own opinion about it, because at the end of the day, it's still, you know, kind of money, but the pledge, I always seen GameFound as the crowdfunding platform, not as a pledge manager platform. And my understanding was that they provide these services for free, of doing, you know, pledge manager services for free, only because they want to take traffic or create traffic to the page. And then obviously, you know, show you other projects they're currently running, or so on, so on, so on, which completely makes sense to me. But now they have changed the policy, and they they charge basically for pledge manager, which means it is not good for backers, because then obviously we'll have to start in the future projects, start calculating these costs into your projects, and they do charge from the money which brings in, which means even for the shipping you're gonna have to add 5%, because that's what they charge. Now, what's the alternative at the moment? I know in the background there is some talks and discussions about, so big boys, we're not big boys, but other big boys ask us. So what I mean by big boys is other companies which makes Kickstarter, large Kickstarters, and used to use, and still using GameFound for the pledge manager, and they ask the question whether we would like to participate in something which will be free pledge manager. Because they don't found value in paying for pledge manager basically. So I don't know. I think GameFound will maybe change the policy at some point. I don't know. But this time around, yes, for the Deus layer we're going to be using a GameFound. Maybe for the future as well, because we in talks with GameFound about, you know, some different conditions, let's say. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to a little bit of, you know, blue slides, because I've done that for you. Right, so there's a couple things I want to discuss with you, and one of them is how we basically validating Kickstarter GameFound data. So what I mean by that is what we think about whether the Kickstarter was successful, or whether we have to learn about something, or what we should do in order to improve for the future Kickstarters based on the data from the current ones, right? So most of the cases we have access to some of the data, and you know, like any other company, this is nothing crazy. Basically, we track the data on the Google Analytics, and we also track data on Kickstarter now. And for us, there's a few very, very important data, where one of them being conversion rate. So conversion rate is nothing, you know, it's quite simple data. It basically shows you what's the percentage of people who visit your page that turn it into backers, so they pledged. Then we have an average per backer, so this is the average spend per backer, so how much backer spends basically in average on your campaign, and then new backers. And new backers is very, very important, because if you don't have a new backers, this means you're not progressing in terms of as a company basically. So you're not progressing, you're just trying to sell new products to the same customers, which is not always you know, business 101. It doesn't will explain you this one very well. You have to build a new customers constantly. So that's what it is. So we collect this data in Google Analytics. I do have this set of data. So we have a set of data of number of visitors, number of sales, the conversion rate, the sessions, so how many people actually come back to the page again, and so on and so on, and blah de blah de blah, which I will show you in a second on a proper graph. Because, you know, going through every single one don't tell you anything, because we won't be able to compare it. And then we have also information like the project followers. So as you might know, before the Kickstarter starts, you want people to go and follow your project. This is very, very important, because this drives the first peak, which is the first 24 hours or 48 hours, and then final 148 hours as well. So this, for instance, shows you, this is from the Deus layer, that we have 13,600 followers, which out of them 4,051 became backers, which means the conversion rate was 30%. Now, what's the average for us? Deus layer, this is quite good. I mean, other projects got different from 27 to from 23 to 37. 37 was Heroes of Might and Magic, which is the board game, so it's completely different. But in the plastic, when we do 30%, 31% is very, very good in my opinion. Very good to conversion rate. So this conversion rate is actually equal to the conversion rate we had with a Dungeons & Lasers 3. Okay, so upload on the chart this data just to show you quickly, and we can go through this. And if you have some ideas why it is as it is, just drop me a comment. I'm quite happy to listen to your understanding of the data. So we had a Woodhaven. We ran Woodhaven in 2021. It was the lockdown. And if you go through any retail sales, any Kickstarter sales, anything, you will know exactly that during the lockdown was actually one of the best period of the online sales. And no doubt about it. Some of the stores was getting additional traffic of 30, 40, even 50% more than not during lockdown. I mean, it's quite obvious. Everybody was, locked in a house. Everybody's got access and spent more time on the internet. So effectively, every single ad you ran or every information and so on, you had access to. You could go and on the page straight away and then see the project, right? So Dungeon Lasers 2021, then 2022 we run the encounters. That was run on the GameFound, and then now this year we run the Deus Lair, which was just a couple of weeks ago, right? So the phase data I want to show you is something which we called users, which we are gathering from a Google Analytics. So how it works, the Kickstarter is got a small box, and you put in that box the Google Analytics number, and then all the data is fed from the Kickstarter into Google, and then you can, those charts I was showing you on the previous slides, it collects data for you. So it collects data about the sales, how much the revenue brought. It collects the data about the number of visitors and numbers of people who actually come into your page. So this is the data for 2021. So during the Dungeons Lasers Woodhaven, we had 148,000 visitors to the page. So, and then for the encounters, it went down to 63,000, and then there was 53,000 visitors on the page. Now, visitors on the page, usually they're driven through different kind of sources. You got source of the Kickstarter. So if you if you manage to get quite good page visibility by Kickstarter, so you're on a front page, for instance, because there is lots of comments on your project, there's lots of revenue coming through, so they will keep you on the first page of the Kickstarter. You get additional traffic. So this is how you might sometimes get much bigger traffic to your page, just because of the algorithm of Kickstarter will help you. It's helping you. Encounters is 63,000, and then we have Deus Lair 53,000. Now in Deus Lair, we had a huge problem with ads. We never had that big problem with the ads, but the main problem was day 4 of the campaign, our ads and all the campaigns basically stopped, and they were stopping on daily basis. And one of the reasons for that being is our lovely bank decided to block every single transaction which is called Kickstarter transactions. So every time when we needed to pay for ads, the bank was blocking the cards, effectively not paying for the ads, and the Facebook was stopping all the ads traffic. Not good, basically. And then what I noticed is that, or we basically noticed in the team, that when we paid for manually, so when you actually when I phone my bank and say, look, I need that payment to go through, and the payment is going through, when you restart the ads, the ad spend is massive for the 1 hour or 2 hours. Basically, it's like a Facebook is trying to catch up on the spend you have give it to Facebook for this period of 24 hours. And then the CPL or click per spend is just crazy, like $10, $15, and Facebook is trying to burn all the money you assign it for the ads within very, very short period of time, which is not ad effective at all, because you're gonna get only one spike, and then everything will go down again to the bottom, and then you're gonna hit again the cutoff for the spend. And again, you're gonna get, my card was getting blocked off. So literally towards the end of the campaign, across the middle of the campaign, we couldn't get any ads running. And how much we have potentially lost traffic? I think we lost about between 5 to 10% of traffic to the page. Maybe a little bit more, maybe even 20% of the traffic. We will never know. Basically, we'll never know. But if you look at that number here with 52, if you get 10% or 20% more, we should be around about the size of 63, 64, maybe even 70,000, something like that, of visitors, which is very, very, very good result. Comparing this one to Heroes of Might and Magic 3, we had 71,000 visitors to the page, but that is completely different project because, as I mentioned, board game projects are much more, let's say, they're much more financially easy to gain traction, right? And you can see, you can compare board game projects to any other plastic projects and you will know exactly. So this is basically traffic. Now, explaining all the traffic is, here was lockdown, that's for sure. I mean, this effect is the lockdown because we haven't seen this kind of traffic to any other projects before. And it's driven by, you know, people having access, very easy access to internet, and they work from the home and things like that. That is quite normal, I think, for the GameFound. So GameFound usually will have a little bit smaller traffic only because you have additional traffic from Kickstarter itself if you're on the front page. And that was, I would say, here we have lost just because no ads for remarketing was running across from day 4 till the end of the campaign, which effectively, you know, affects your campaign as well. So yeah. Then we have something like conversion rate. Conversion rate, this is how many it's calculated by Google for you, and basically it shows how many people came to your page and then how many people actually backed your page. And here is something crazy data. So normal conversion rate is around about 5%. So if you Google or if you check what's the conversion rate for visitors to your products, if you're running the online store, 5%, this is something quite normal. So during the encounters, our conversion rate was around about 7.4%, and during that campaign here, which is the Deus campaign, we have 10% of conversion rate, which is absolutely huge, absolutely huge. So that's one thing. That is one thing which I'm very surprised about. I didn't expect that one. I was expecting the conversion rate would be around about 5%, but it only tells us that this project was, yeah. There's many questions because you may look at that question from different angles. One of the angles might be seeing that we should have much more traffic, then this will go down, and it will answer the question why the conversion rate is so high, or the conversion is so high only because of we have much more convinced customers for, you know, backing the projects. Yeah, but I'm quite happy with this data. The next data is quite boring because this is average spend per euro. We have internal target. Internal target is basically to make much better products and much more interesting products. So this is another record we have gained. So Woodhaven was 158, 63 we had with encounters, and then Deusle itself 179. So this is our record. This is the highest we ever achieved in terms of average spend on our page. So that is very, very good. That is very, very good. And yeah. So I'm quite happy about it. My target was, the target I had in my paperwork was 168. So it was something just few euro extra, just round about here. So we exceed the target in terms of actually spent. So that's very good. And then new backers, and that data is shocking. That's absolutely shocking data. And this is the data I was showing you on the backend data when we run the campaign. So how we get this data? This data is coming from the Kickstarter itself, because now before the campaign finished, I was able to go and click it and see exactly the number. So this is exactly correct data. So 43% of the Deusle backers are brand new backers. This means they have never ever backed anything Deusle. Never. So across all the campaigns, not even Deusle, any other of our campaigns. So neither do, you know, board games or and so on. This is crazy data. Crazy. It only shows that this is very good progress, by the way. Gaining 43 additional customers is actually something amazing, right? So we didn't have that many during the encounters. How we get to that data is basically I was comparing emails. So we were comparing emails of backers from previous campaigns to the encounters, and we just figured it out. It's only 15%. Here we had 38%. So this is from the previous campaign. So from Deusle 1, Deusle 2, we gained 30 additional customers. this is very good data. I think based on that one, I would say the Deus Lair was extremely good and a successful campaign. Obviously taking in consideration the current financial climate, because the financial climate is not the best at this stage. As you might know, everybody suffered from inflation and the bills and so on. I mean, we just came back from UK when we were on a trade shows and we heard lots of stories about that one. So yeah. Right, let me have a look at some questions. If you have some questions here, maybe you have some things you have. Okay, so I need to post this one, guys. So by the way, there's a tournament happening in Spain, Spanish tournament Battleground. It's for him and Battleground. And Andreas is telling that actually hurry up, there's only 2 spots left. So go on Facebook. I think they're doing extremely a good job in terms of actually, with this game. So go and have a look. Yes, I totally agree. This is what we wanted to do, and I totally agree. This is completely different. The crazy bit is that we only had 15% extra different backers. So between the encounters and Woodhaven, we share many backers of the same backers. So that was very surprising, because I would say that with these encounters we wanted to actually increase the number of backers, which we couldn't because of it turns out that group is the same, was kind of the same, right? So yeah, but the fair point is here at this stage we had round about 18,000 different backers. So this campaign was backed only by 9,000 backers, so let's say half of them. Okay, so the other half of them, other 9,000 backers, might be hidden here. So that's why they haven't backed Woodhaven, but they're much more interested in the encounters terrain. That could be the answer why it's only 15%. Here, this data shows it's a pure data from Kickstarter itself. So the Kickstarter itself, I was doing this on live when I actually the last hour of the campaign. I was actually sharing this data, showing you on the back end of the data. It actually refreshed, changed, and went even up, because it refreshed. That data on the Kickstarter is only beta, so it doesn't refresh constantly. You have to wait a couple of hours to that data to be refreshed. So, but anyway, it's still crazy number. Right. Some people don't know about the crowdfunding part of the game fund and are in yes, I do. Yes, I agree on that one. I'm not surprised. If you're using Amazon, why would you use anything else? The same story, right? You have to create a new account. You have for this. So, but the game fund is doing all they have in the power to actually make the platform very attractive. Yeah. That is correct. But that is correct. But we always compare. This is also correct to one thing. If you have too many $1 backers, this means the people kind of are interested in the product but not convinced. So if you don't have many, this means the people were much more convinced about backing the projects instead of actually just sitting on $1 and seeing what's happened. Yeah. The game found was the encounters wasn't a game found. So this is, so I was mentioning only this data here is coming from only the data that number is coming from Kickstarter. That data you can calculate by yourself, and it's coming from all the values of your kick track, or you just basically divide by the number of backers. This data, this and that, we calculated manually, and this data is coming from the Google Analytics. Yeah, so Google Analytics provides you with this data. So I had it on the previous page. Right. Okay, let me clear it. Let's go through some questions, and that was that. So, will the future projects focus on the teams in cities within the Deus Lair, such as Woodhaven was? Yes, that is the short answer is yes. I left it blank here because I want to show you the plan for Deus Lair for the next couple of years. The next question is basically asking almost the same, but do we plan any skirmish war game? So I would definitely say yes. So that's the Deus Lair. what we're planning to do first. So it's a skirmish combat game. So I've been thinking about airship battles, and the date will be 23, 24. So it's something we have to realign now with other projects, and 32mm scale and Deus factions. So what you might expect that we will definitely grow on airship, just to create airship game. I think the idea is great. Modularity of those things will allow us to actually do that. And I personally, I think you're going to be quite interesting projects for us. Then obviously 5e plus miniatures range. So for 2024, we will expand the miniatures range for Deus and still adding 5e. So probably you're going to be looking either for additional one more campaign or just the bestiary. We will see which approach we're going to take. But more likely it's going to be some NPCs and monsters plus 5e bestiary. So that's the current idea. And then my favorite one is the wargame. Not quite sure how we're going to be calling it. Maybe Deus Fantasy Battles. But it's a semi-rank and file wargame, and also planned for 2024, starting with 4 factions. Starting 4 factions and probably taking, and all the factions will be basically Deus factions. So something which is, we want to make it this wargame very, very unique in terms of theme, in terms of look, in terms of, you know, yeah, it needs to be different than any other games that are currently available on the market. Now, in terms of rules, there's something very interesting. I played that semi-rank and file a game, and I really like it, the movement rules, because my biggest downside for any rank and file game is you have this massive block of miniatures you have to push through, and yeah, when it actually comes to proper combat, proper gameplay, proper, you know, strategically planning of moving your troops here or there, you are very, very limited. Most of the games end up in, you know, second round charge and then third round the combat resolution and goodbye. So we want to move away from that one and allow much more maneuverability of your units and troops. So this is where it comes to the semi-rank and file system. So you move like you would move your miniatures in a normal skirmish game, with the twist obviously. So it's a square base, so you can only move within your 90 degree angle visibility. And then when it comes to the combat, then you combine all the miniatures and bolt ranks, because you play on a square basis. And what this allows is, just imagine having 2 kind of blocks of units, and you want your cavalry go through it and charge something which is behind. So in a normal wargame rank and file, you wouldn't be able, unless you do some crazy reform again, you know, almost impossible to do in normal rank and file. Here with the skirmish rules and the way how we structure the rules, you'll be able to actually get these smaller units, fast, quick, rapid units, to go through between those units and then reform again, and then maybe be behind the enemy lines or charge, you know, units which are behind there, which, you know, that's the whole idea. That's the whole concept of for that movement, and that should fix the biggest issue with rank and file games, I think, personally. I mean, that's why I like it. But it's planned for 2024. We are, just for that purpose, just for this purpose of this game and one more which I'm going to show you in a second, we are expanding our manufacturing. Yeah. Let's have a look. I mean, we only wanted the item really confirmed. Be the modification kit allowed to multiple variants, crystal, tristors, and flint flight things. So this is definitely about the airship question. Yes, I want to make it modular. We have to make it modular. Let's start with this one, because it is grounds. It's our testing ground for the airship game. So if we manage to do it the way I want to do it, so everything you have seen it on this concept will be modular, you can use it or not use it. This will allow us to create different variety of airships. And by the modularity, I meant that this airship is going to be, let's say, that size, but that middle section could be extended by other copy of middle sections, allowing you to create something bigger, something longer. And that's what I want. I want something like that. And then seeing that on the table, you will have the options of moving this one, and yeah, it's going to be something cool, really cool. For Tutu Dragon, will the underbelly be sculpted? So if I decide to use this as Leviathan on a stand, it wouldn't have at floor. Well, I think the underbelly definitely, because it's a miniature, so you will have the underbelly for that. We sometimes don't make any under, terrain beds, like for instance this, so it's hollow inside, and we don't make, because there's no need. It stands like that, so it stands on the table and it's not required. For the miniatures we always do, otherwise we're gonna hit that, you might know this Games Workshop tank controversy, when they haven't add anything, the bottom of the tank wasn't actually included, and it was like a massive hole in there, and really it's not miniature anymore, it's toy, right? I would classify this one as a toy, not like a wargaming miniature when you have to spend time painting things like that. So that was kind of mistake, and we don't want to do those mistakes, not for the miniatures, that's for sure. When do we start the campaign for Duck Dragon Mini for DL6? Vote quick, vote duck. There's no need for vote. This Dragon Duck will be available in the Dungeons Lasers 6. That's for sure. I will make it happen. I really like the concept, and yeah, I think there's no discussion about it. We need to get that one for the next campaign, right? Yes, thank you for mentioning this one. I think Alex was sending me picture that somebody on Discord was actually assembling large ship, and we had exactly the same idea, where you could use the same system. So we just made a huge the stronghold, right? So, and this idea is actually coming from the stronghold. So how about if we use a flooring and some stands, some bits and bobs and elements from Deus Lair, but only at the sides of the ship, and use exactly the same system you have now in the in Dungeon Lasers Connections. That will work, right? So yeah, I want to do the same system. I want to see how this one work, and I think it's gonna be very, very interesting project, because then will allow us to create a different kind of type of fantasy ships, vehicles, and so on, so on. So yes, that's a good question. That is a very good question. Right, have a look. One more questions. For the Encounters prop set, are the 1 per bucket piece, Cage, Highlander, and Tower a part of this set? So I would say just have a look on the page, because on the page we had exactly what is in the set, and then when we're going to be running Pledge Manager, just have a look in the Pledge Manager, because for sure we will be having 100% describe all those items which are part of each of the sets you buy. Okay, obviously won't change to the Kickstarter. We might add it, but we won't be able to remove it. 1 second, I'm gonna be moving to home in a second. Yeah, this model I showed, it was only the concept, it was only whip, so there's some things we need to change, and definitely we are listening to you, and definitely the feedback was passed to the sculptor. Yes, it's exactly the NL, it's exactly fantasy, scenery, dungeons, exactly. You can link it in, you can extend it in, you can use it for something else. I have renders which I couldn't get them on time for you, just to show you how it stacks up, because you couldn't see it, but maybe I would be able to somehow show you. I'm not quite sure if I'm able to do that. Oh yeah, I got it. I will show you something. See my page now, right? Have a look. This is how the stronghold actually stacking up. So you get all those items in a stronghold. Yeah, so they actually did that. So I hope you like it. I got it before the live, so I couldn't actually include it. Could you show the same time some GW minis to show the scale? We have to be careful with that one. We are okay with, well, some of them, but we have to be careful. We will try as much as possible to compare our miniatures to GW miniatures in terms of scale, but we have to really be careful. I know the April May 2024 is the last possible time to those will ship. What is the realistic bet for the yearly shipping? I would not promise anything. At the moment, we're staying with April, May. Once we halfway to the projects, I will know exactly the dates, and more I know about the dates, more I will be sharing with you. So stay tuned. My prediction is end of the year. My only prediction, but many things might happen. We may end up with, you know, spending a little bit more time on this model, that model, like we did with Tarask, for instance. We needed to spend about 3 weeks more on the Tarask than we anticipated or we planned. So we ended up with actually projects delayed for shipping 3 weeks. So this time around, I think, because obviously the team gained much more experience, we should be much more confident that the project will be shipped at least 3 months before, if not January, but definitely we are on time on the project. Titanomachy, something what I mentioned to you that I'm going to be sharing to show you. For those of you who really love sci-fi, that's the, I have more concepts to show you, but that's the Titanomachy. Titanomachy, we plan to be a skirmish game for 4 to 8 Titans. The various sizes, so from the light to heavy. When I say light, it's going to be around about 80 millimeter, about 2 inch, 2.5 inch to maybe 3 to 4 inches Titans. So quite large miniatures. Various classes, so mill, range, specialist, so call them majors, call them technical, and so on. Hex-based movement, so we're looking at the hex-based map of 50 millimeter. So all the Titans we plan currently to be on 50 millimeter round bases. And yeah, we will see how this one goes. At the moment, there are some very interesting mechanics there. I played this one with the team, so I really like those mechanics. I really like the movement. I really like the way you play it, because it's kind of, yeah, something which, you know, it hits my buttons, which I really like it. For factions, at the moment we are working currently on a human faction, and then we will have 3 additional non-human faction. The focus will be as well on a campaign play and co-op. And then the D10 system. So I think the guys tested with D6. I want to move away from D6. I want to move into this 10 system because it gives you much more better potential. And dial activation. So dial activation, it will be kind of risk reward activation. This means you set up on a dial the initiative you want to activate your Titan on, and then based on that one you'll get a number of actions to spend, or number of energy you're going to get, or maybe some other bonuses and benefits. And also this affects your armor and things like that. We come up with this good system. I really like that system. Might be a little bit too complex. We will see how the blind test goes. But based on the blind test, we will know more about it. So that's the Titanomachy. This project is planned for next year, for 2024. It's what the scale of this. So this is the scale of the, if this is 28 millimeter model, this is a semi size of the mech. So there will be twice the size of normal miniatures, sometimes 3 times of the size. So gonna be quite large. Some of them gonna be quite large. So you're gonna be looking about 3 inch. Maybe taller than about 5-6 inch models. 1 second. So that is my caliper, a measuring stick caliper. 1 second. To show you some of models. So just to show you, this is model of Deus Lair, one of those models which you have it, and this size of the model is 72. So just imagine 80, so a little bit bigger than this model is the small mechs. So you take them like 3 or 4 in your army, then you take the bigger ones. The biggest ones, which we plan to about 13 centimeters, something like that, so twice that size. Okay. So in the next couple of months, we should have some renders to show you against the miniatures, 28 millimeters, so we can basically talk about that. Obviously, we have several ideas for concepts. All those concepts you see here, not many of them gonna be part of the game. We just at the moment we're just concepting them. We will see which one the best and which one gonna be using it. So, and we have plenty of ideas for, you know, heavy mechs, for medium mechs, for some support, technical, engineering mechs, and so on. So you'll be able to build your army the way you want. And yeah. So as I mentioned, currently we only focused on the human faction. And once we have this human faction done and dusted, we will move to other factions. Okay. Let me check some questions. Potentially, but it's a good idea to consider, definitely. It's a good idea to consider. Oh yes, the Stronghold was one of the better, really good seller. We were not convinced at the beginning because we asked our distributors whether they're interested in such a huge box. And they were saying, you know, not really. And once we pushed to the sales, and it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. It seems to like the larger boxes are selling much better than the small boxes. I don't understand that, but yeah, something to consider. So gonna be there will be more boxes, definitely more boxes. Definitely caves and definitely different type of caves. So the launch event, we planned this one to be maybe November this year. I hope November this year. At least this is what is for the internal target to start this. And we don't know which platform yet. Either it's going to be Kickstarter or it's going to be at the GameFound. We will see which platform we're going to go for. Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be cool. For sure it's going to be cool. I mean, what you see on the concept here, it's not the final concept, and it's not, you know, there's no weapons, there's no poses, there's no things like that, but we have much more. And I'm going to be showing much more in the next couple of months. Yes, still that thing, I'm investigating personally this one. I'm seeing the machines to start doing this production. I want this production in-house. I won't have mats, and the mats needs to be very good quality. Very good quality. So either we're going to find somebody who's going to make them in a very good quality, or we're going to be making them ourselves. I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna be able to ship this one earlier than that September. No, that December. Sorry, that December. I think should be on time at the moment, which I'm gonna move there in a second. So let's talk a little bit about the Heroes 3. So we've got the engineering stuff. We got engineering stuff from the for the manufacturer. And I want to show you exactly how everything will be packaged. Now, why this is important? Because you have to make this step in order to actually know what exactly goes in where. And we added extra bits and bobs just for this campaign. Just make sure that we have a way to put the stuff, how it's actually being packaged back, and so on, so on. So that's the core box. You have a core box. You have all the punch boards, combat board, which goes on top, punch board again, and so on. And now how everything goes in there is we designed these trays. Well, actually the manufacturer designed these trays. You have two different layers of trays. One of the trays will be just designated for the miniatures for the core box. A second layer of the trays is basically designated for the tiles, cards. And now here, yes, if you're going to ask about the sleeves, this slot there is large enough to actually fit the cards with the sleeves. Okay, the tokens, the round tokens, so you're going to be able to place them back here, and then we have any other various tokens and dice which goes back into the tray. Okay, now everything goes back together. So first that tray, second tray with the miniatures goes on top, and then on top of that, on top of that, it goes the other elements. Now the map and everything else, but the other bits with the battle board and things like that goes back into the box. you can just place it on the bottom or on the top anyway, because this is all gonna be kind of flat. So that's what it is. I mean, at this stage, at this step, we are quite confident about, you know, the sizes of the boxes, weight of the product, and everything else. And that, hence, we can actually run the pledge manager. But that was the biggest stopper for the pledge manager. We needed to know how much weight these projects will be. It's not small projects, and we cannot calculate wrongly the shipping. We cannot, because otherwise, you know, we jeopardize almost everything. Now, stretch goals, exactly the same principle here. In terms of stretch goals, you will find many the same idea, the same concept of the way we design it. So you have a trace, you have a punch board, and all the other elements. All the trays, as I mentioned, for the cards trays, for token trays, and the card trays, especially the card trays, will include enough space for you to place the sleeves. Okay. What else we have here? Stretch goals, another stretch goals, already layout for the miniatures, layout for punch boards. Azure, this is the only one which we planned differently, and we came back with the original plan doesn't work, so we needed to realign a few elements, and I believe increase the size of the box a little bit in order to actually fit everything. So all the models, miniatures, town sets, everything which needs to go into box is already placed correctly. Yeah, I think the dimensions just changed for 4 millimeter just to you know, make sure that we have everything in that box. Okay, so that's good. And then we have expansion rampart is exactly the same as the previous one. All the miniatures will be in a tray. You have a separate lid for the tray, and then in that lid you will have cutoffs for additional cards to be placed in. Porters expansions is the same, so the miniatures layout, you have the tiles and all the additional elements. Yeah, so that's what it is today for the heroes on Might and Magic 3. So as you can see, the progress is going really ahead. We're waiting for so-called whites. By whites I mean everything printed, but everything glued and everything prepared for us, but no printing on it. Okay, so that's only one thing we are currently waiting on. The translation is ongoing and it's happening, so it's on time. We managed to ship the English one about 3 weeks before the due date, so it's still good. We didn't get any bad news from translation, so this will happen on time. Obviously, you have to bear in mind that when I say translation, I only mean the ones which we promised to deliver on time, and the remaining languages will be available 6 months later. We will obviously try to do it much faster than 6 months, but we will let you know in Kickstarter updates whether we can actually speed up this process. Okay. Okay. What else? What else? Do you have any questions? Do you have, guys, any questions? Let me just check the questions. Okay, in terms of Titanomachy, at the moment only different type of mechs. Now we want to start it with this skirmish. This skirmish will allow us to maybe future to extend to something bigger, or in terms of actually miniatures. So add more miniatures, like, you know, the proper 28, 32 millimeter models. I had this idea about having Titan Hunters. So the Titan Hunters would be just basically normal kind of either faction or humans from, you know, from the same faction, but they're basically assigned to be hunters. So it's a small models miniatures, which they basically running around with the rocket launchers or any other EMP weapons, stunning, or, you know, trying to go behind the Titan and shoot it on its back, where they are much more fragile. But at the moment, we're only going to be focusing on the gameplay with Titans. I think it's going to be much different, because what's the concept for this game is you're going to have quite a lot of, you know, close combat Titans. This means a close combat action. We don't want to focus that much on a range shooting. I watch many bat reps of different type of, you know, vehicle combat games, and 99% of them are ranged. and which is very boring because from starting from second round, when you already place your models and miniatures, you're just there shooting enemy miniatures without moving, without doing anything. It's completely boring. I mean, it's very bad design, basically, in my opinion. And we want to make a game which you have those titans moving quite rapidly on the board. Not only moving quite rapidly, they going smashing each other, they pushing each other, they're getting them, you know, they're pushing against the wall and doing all those things which we expect in a close combat mech or titan versus titan, right? So that's the concept. Obviously, I'm not saying we're not gonna have any range mechs. We will have range mechs, and some of them gonna be strong, but obviously we want to focus much more on a close combat one, which is much more exciting in my opinion. And especially when you can break through and crazy, you will be able to do crazy stuff in that game. So something you haven't seen in any other war game. Yeah, that is also idea for Sewer City. We will have to add some additional stuff for that one. It sounds very good. If I pledge for collector pledge, can I buy some additional version in the pledge manager that includes an additional items from the Kickstarter? If you pledge for the collector pledge, yes, we will have some separate items, I believe, in the pledge manager. We will see how the pledge manager will be structured next week, when I'm gonna sit down with my team just to make sure. But if there's some more requirements for the pledge manager, we will be able to unlock. But additional items which we have at the moment is you'll be able to upgrade your pledge from normal pledge, any type of pledge, to this max out pledge with the one single box. Definitely pre-shaded models and miniatures. This is something we wanted and we already agreed to that one. And that's two things which I know about. Anything else is basically team which works on this one and seeing if we're gonna be able to add many things, more things. I guess yes. This is the Kallax on the back. I'm using that one, so it needs to fit there. And if we go through the sizes, we can even check very, very quickly, because core box. The base game, where's the sizes? Base game, hold on a second. Huh? I don't have it. I think it will. Michał, if you watch, and just provide the correct dimensions, because they hear in the worm language, and I don't read worm language. One of the Chinese dialects. So anyway, okay. So it's going to be mix of Gundam and BattleTech. Yes and no. I'm not fancy Gundam at all. And the thing is, here inside there is a driver. There is a driver inside there. So what we plan to do is the trooper goes in there. You have a hatch, and probably interior. We're also going to be sculpting interior, but this is much more, if you follow trend for Titanfall, and it's much more aesthetically closer to Titanfall, and conceptually also much more closer to the Titanfall. So something much more modern. BattleTech is much more massive 20, 40, 60 meter tall mechs, you know, with massive guns and things like that, and, you know, shooting across the map, rockets and things like that. Here, not that much. Here it's gonna be much more, close combat mechs, moving through the walls, moving in buildings, and so on. The core set will also include some terrain pieces. So we don't know which type of terrain pieces, but I think probably one of the rampart ones, probably the city one. Yeah, that's correct. It's so more Titanfall, exactly. Yeah, I think the thing with the thing with BattleTech, or it's a little bit, in my personal opinion, a little bit outdated, and Gundam, it's not something we cannot do, or we won't be able to do properly, I think, because you already have to go to Japan to make it properly. If you know what I mean. You need to try to get the concept from artists from there. Yeah, we really struggle with those concepts anyway, because we had several different type of concepts which we not really like it, or we didn't fancy at the beginning, so we're going back and forth. But I think it's much more modern concept, much more modern approach to what we want to do. So, and everything will be explained in a fluff, exactly how, you know, all the mechs and everything, how it works and how they play and so on, so on. So the reasons behind all the weapons. Yeah, so that's what it's for this project. Yeah, so shipping dates still December. We're still aiming at shipping in December. Yeah, we will keep you updated about when exactly. I think the cutoff date for the manufacturer to confirm shipping out of the Chinese manufacturing place is something around September. So once they tell us in September, okay, we're shipping, then it's gonna be all fine. Yes, what add-ons? I mentioned about the 2 add-ons. One of the add-ons is having pre-painted miniatures, so that's not pre-painted, pre-shaded miniatures, sorry for that. And also upgrading into the full box. That's the big box. This is what was one of the requirements. And I explained the reason behind the big box, because, you know, we have different variety of add-ons, and if you wanted to make a big box for every single level of pledges, that's impossible, because then, you know, somebody will add Inferno to it, then we have to make a little bit bigger. Somebody don't want to have Inferno, we have to make it smaller. Many things which we basically cannot do it. So we're only going to be offering big box for the big one. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback. I mentioned this, so we're scaling them to the human. This is a miniature for human, so this mech would be twice size of the human. This is the average medium size of mech. The large size of mech would be around about 40 millimeter tall, so between 12 and 13, sorry. So this is the size of my head. No, I'm joking. To show you the size, I can actually get a dragon. Oh. Actually, yes. That's the dragon, so gonna be size of the dragon. Roundabout the size of the dragon. Okay. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah. That's correct. For grill, I'm not quite sure what you mean by grill. Okay, so yeah, so it will be for the full pledge, which that full pledge includes also add-ons, which includes the only one add-on really which we have there is the yes, well, you're correct, everything basically full pledge. We have to do that, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do that separately. The manufacturer doesn't want to kind of do it for with the smaller quantities for the price we ask for, so it's no point. And charging additional, I don't know, $20 or $30 or $40 just for the big box for the, you know, the game which costs $80. That's, you know, no, it's not gonna happen. Actually, no. I think we're only going to be doing that for, well, you potentially, yes, in the separate add-ons, because the miniatures are spread across the add-ons, okay? So each of the individual add-ons will have the miniatures, so you can get miniatures from each of the individual add-ons. So expansions, basically. Yeah, so second faction will be, well, yes. There will be one organic faction, so basically large monsters, and there will be one faction which will be very alienish, so stay tuned, I will have more to show. Yeah, the next campaign, definitely yes. The the curved rooms, walls, and terrain will be available in Dungeons Lasers 6 next campaign this year. We're already working on tech, so something I'm gonna be sharing with you in the next couple of months again will be some of the concepts we already come up with. I did that already. I showed you before how we plan to do it. So yeah, it's happening. It must happen. Okay, that's correct. The pledge manager will be opening on 8th of May. We push it to the 8th of May for the just a couple of weeks away from now. Does I miss? No, the light pledge will be up on the 9th. I mean, yeah, that's the answer from... Yeah, so we still have time for that. So it will be terrain. 80% will be terrain. 20% will be miniatures. Only because we want to add small miniatures or small number of miniatures to the themed terrain, right? So otherwise they kind of don't work. You need to have some. How we see this one, you have this, we want to give you a full kind of campaign in a box. So yes, you may use your own miniatures, but it's not going to be heavy on miniatures. Don't get me wrong. As I mentioned, 80-20%, this is the best factor. But we want to give you this if you're going for one team. For instance, you want to go for catacombs, right? So if you don't have a miniatures for catacombs, you will have that in that set additional miniatures for your catacombs, right? So some basic miniatures like maybe skeletons, maybe mummies, maybe some necromancer, maybe all those things which you should encounter there. Okay, so kind of we want to give you full package. I don't know if we go into offering also packages without miniatures. Maybe something we should also think about when it comes to the Kickstarter, but at the moment that's the idea. More terrain, just some NPCs and some encounters, and that's it. I don't know. You have to just have a look on our latest campaign, which is Deus Le. Have a look because there's a full list over there, and just check which bracket you are in, and that should give you some answer. Because we're basically going to be doing exactly the same because we are using exactly the same shipping company. Yes, that's correct. That's what we want. You have to, because it's gonna the Titanomachy is basically we are building new universe, new IP. So yeah. Yes, there's gonna be new bases. We will add new bases. So every single campaign, which will include at least small fraction of miniatures, will have their own themed bases. We like bases. So stay tuned for the pledge manager, which will be open just literally on 8th. So you should see more stuff. Exactly. That's my point, that we might be thinking about just adding just terrain and then adding you as additional, I don't know, XYZ if you want encounters. So we could do that. We could do that, like you have just terrain, and then for additional, I don't know, €10, you can add the encounters for this terrain, like additional add-on. We could potentially do that, yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're gonna be 28. I mean, not 28, 32. 28 is just not the real kind of scale, so 32. So if you imagine this model, you will be able to fit, I mean, the 28mm model sits in there as a pilot. My team is on the chat, so they will be able to help you out with this one. I think we we plan to also have this one on UKM Game Expo as one of the feature. So if you're going to UKM Game Expo, or if you going to probably watch some videos, we will have some teasers and more information and basically gameplay and playthrough. Definitely in the book there will be. Yes, either there we are going to be moving for more expansions in the future. At the moment, they're only going to be available for retail, so that's the plan. And I won't be telling you which one, but we already have them in plan and plan out. So the team is actually going to work on them, not now because they need to focus on other projects. But once we already showed this plan to Ubisoft and they okay with this plan, so that's great. So we got additional expansions already approved. Let's say like that. Okay. Right. Okay, guys, I'm gonna be wrapping up for today. Thank you very much for dialing in. Thank you very much for your questions. I will see you in 2 weeks when I will have more questions, more things to show you, more from Deusle in terms of sculpting, and definitely more from Titanomachy, because we currently and actively working on it. And maybe I will have some also other crazy news, which really want to share with you, but I don't want to kind of spoil it yet. And yeah, so if you have more questions, or if you have any questions, just skip them for the next time. I'll drop them on Discord. You may join Discord, or if you're watching and haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And yeah, click that icon thingy, and just to make sure that you will get notified whenever we do any campaign. Well, not campaign, any live chat. And yeah, that's it. So have a nice weekend. It's a long weekend here in Poland. We're gonna be enjoying it, definitely. Half of the team is gonna be away. I've got a lot of gardening to do, so I'm not gonna be resting. So no battery recharge for me. I probably come back more tired than than I'm going for those holidays, for that break. But I will see you in 2 weeks.